Good morning, Year 7, and welcome to, well, it says here Mastery Focus, which I'll explain in a moment, but also, you've only heard my voice once, so it might be unfamiliar to you, but this is Mrs. Deutsch. Now, as you can tell, I'm not in the class with you today, but I will still be guiding us through the learning and of this lesson and taking you through the tasks. Now, whichever lovely teacher is in the room with you supporting, their job of course is to help you and support you. They can pause and rewind, and they can hopefully offer some direction and guidance if there's anything that's not clear. So I would just like you all to make sure at this stage, okay, that you are happy, that you can hear me. If you need the teacher to adjust the volume, we'll allow for that in a minute. But I am going to be guiding you through our learning today, even though I'm not with you in the classroom. Okay, so the first thing is that you will need your pink books from the box. Hopefully you've got those. If not, the teacher will make sure they come round to you. From your TCC 6 equipment, you will need a pen and a ruler today. And I would just like to assure anybody that didn't finish their writing with me when I was in the classroom, we will be doing that on Monday, so you don't need to be anxious about that, guys, okay? So we're looking today at this word mastery focus, or this phrase mastery focus. So I'd love you now just to write into your books, this is our title, okay? We're going to underline the title shortly, so we're going to write into our books mastery focus and underline it. Okay, the teacher's also going to have the date on the board, so you can record the date and the title, Mastery Focus. I believe it's the 16th of September. Now, it says here then as a little subheading that we're going to be focusing about in this lesson on becoming a master in English. In other words, once a week, as we get into our routines, as we get used to the practices of English, we will have a mastery lesson. Now, sometimes, ideally, it will be a mastery Monday, but sometimes, as in this week, when we're just getting used to the way things unfold for us in English, you can see it's not on Monday, but we are still having our mastery focus lesson. Now, this lesson is all about becoming a master in English. And you might or might not know is that you can move through grades. You can be a novice, somebody that's brand new to something. You can be an expert, somebody that's really good and knowledgeable. And you can be a master, which is like the highest accolade. To be the master of a particular field shows that you're even better than an expert. So this is a lovely aspirational task focus for us in these lessons. And what we're going to be pushing you towards is mastering, becoming a complete expert in certain elements of English. Okay? So you might already be very good at English. So the mastery focus will change and shift over the lessons. So one week you might find that you're not a novice, that you're doing something familiar to you or that you're an expert in, and it will be just practicing and relearning and securing that skill. Sometimes it might be that you will hit an area that you yourself, it might be an area of weakness, and you will go from strength to strength. But the tasks are designed, okay, to make you absolutely brilliant in English in some of the areas we take for granted. So if anybody needs the teacher to pause now whilst you get the title done, please let the teacher know. If not, we'll move on. Are we ready? So today we're going to work to master sentences, and we're going to do that by looking at two areas. We're going to look at what's called the SVO structure. Number one, the SVO structure, and number two, clauses and phrases. So if you like a subheading, we can call today's lesson Mastering Sentences, and you can write down number one, SVO structure, and number two, clauses and phrases. So again, we'll just ask the teacher to pause now so that you can write down Mastering Sentences, number one, SVO structure, number two, clauses and phrases. Okay, lovely people. Now you will notice that at the top of the slides, as we move through today's work, there will be a rule. A rule. This is something that is unchangeable. This is something that will be mastered and learnt to give us a grounding, a foundation at becoming really good at English. So today's rule that we're going to be looking at, okay? Now, although it's going to be on each slide, we're only going to write it down once. So we're going to write down the rule. So first rule, a full sentence needs a subject, a verb, and an object. Okay? So again, you can be beginning to write this down just as I'm speaking to you, but there will be time for Miss to pause in a minute to make sure you've got it. So we're looking at this rule today, mastering a rule that tells us a sentence, a full sentence, needs a subject, a verb, and an object. Now at this point, these might be really familiar to you from primary school. These might be words and phrases that are like ringing a bell, or it might feel like March was a long time ago, Mrs. Doidge. What are you on about? So you can see here we do have the definitions and the examples. So this is where we get the S, the V, and the O from. In number 1 that we're looking at today, sentences, the SVO structure. Okay, so this tells us that a full sentence has a subject at the beginning. There are some exceptions to this rule, but this is what we're going to think about today. That the sentence will begin with the subject. Now, the subject is the person, place, or thing that's carrying out the action. So in every sentence, there should be a subject. A person, place, or thing that carries out the action. So, what does it mean by action? Well, we've got a verb. Now, a verb, sometimes we might talk about a doing word, but for us today, it is the action. The main action of a sentence, the main doing activity, the main thing going on, the action. So a sentence needs a subject, the person, place, or thing carrying out the action. It needs a verb, an action, and it can have an object. Now, an object is the thing that is acted upon. Now, in itself, these 3 phrases seem a bit abstract. So let's just look at them as examples. So let's look at this one. The man opened the door. So we've got the subject at the beginning of this sentence, and here we've got the phrase the man. So guys, is the man a person, place, or thing in that sentence? Brilliant. He's a person, isn't he? He is classified as a person. So it also tells us the who. So the subject is the person. It can tell us who is doing something in a sentence. Okay, lovely, the man. So then we say, well, what's the action? What's the man doing? What's he carrying out? What's he doing? So then we can see that the man opened the door. So, an opened is the action. Now, sometimes actions can be physical. I physically open a door. Sometimes they can be things that go on inside of us, like dreaming, thinking, daydreaming, imagining. So sometimes there can be actions that are outside of ourselves, and sometimes they're going on inside, but it's still in action. So then we say, well, what did he open? What's the thing that was acted upon? And here we've got the object. Now, if we look at the next sentence, the cat sat on the mat, we can see that structure, SVO, again. So we've got the cat. Now, this time, is a cat a person, place, or thing? Brilliant. It's a thing, isn't it? Seems sad to call our animals things, but there you go. So it's the thing. Now, if we said, well, what is the thing doing? What's the action that the cat's performing? Oh, there he is. The cat sat. So we could say, who or what is sitting on the mat? A cat. What is the cat doing? Well, it's sitting on the mat. It's sat on the mat. So then the object, there it is at the end of the sentence, the thing that's acted upon, the mat. So, the man opened the door. The cat sat on the mat. Subject, verb, object. Subject, verb, object. Now I'm going to ask the teacher to pause because I think these are key ideas that we need to just take time today to write down. Okay, so we're going to ask Miss to pause and we're just going to take time to write it down. Now, if you're writing as I was speaking, let Miss know as soon as you're finished. Brilliant, guys. So now that we've written down subject, verb and object, we're going to start doing some activities to practice and help us work out then subject, verb and objects in sentences. So if you remember the rule, a full sentence needs a subject, a verb and an object. So we've got 5 examples on the board. Now, out of these 5, some of them are full sentences. So what will it have if it's a full sentence? I can't hear you. Brilliant. Subject, verb and object. So when you do this, all you're going to write down at this stage, okay, is the numbers of the full sentences. So if I read it to you and you think it's a full sentence, you could write down number 1. If you don't think it's a full sentence number 1, don't write it down. So remember, we're looking for a subject, a verb and an object. We're looking for a who or a what. We're looking for a doing word and what it's being done upon. So let's look at this one. The black fluffy cat. What do we think, guys? Full sentence or elements missing? Now, sometimes we can check by saying to ourselves, well, which bits would I label subject? Which bits would I label verb? And which bit is the object? Oh, I've somehow skipped. Oh. Too far forward. That was a bit magic. Okay, so if we look then, the isn't a subject. It isn't a verb. It isn't an object. It's doing something else. Black. Now, black isn't a subject. Isn't a verb. Isn't an object. Fluffy. Nope. Isn't a verb. Isn't a subject. Isn't an object. But look at this word cat. Now, we know cat is very similar because we've just seen a cat sat on the mat. So the cat is the subject there, but we've got no verb and no object. So that can't be a full sentence. So we cannot write down number 1. Now let's look at number 2. The elephant protected its calf. The elephant protected its calf. So guys, you've got to decide, is that a full sentence? If it is, you write down number 2. If it isn't, we move on. Now we're going to go through all the answers together in a minute, so I'm not going to go through every one now. I want to see what you can do. So number 3, she hurried to the shops. Is that a full sentence or not? Do we write down number 3 or not? Number 4, a blue table. Okay, what about that one? Does that have the subject, verb and object elements or no? And finally, number 5, at the end of the day. So guys, we're just going to press pause there. And out of the numbers 1 to 5, you've got the last minute just to decide which ones are full sentences before we look at the answers. Okay, let's check our answers. Were you right? Okay, so. Right. Did you get it? Did you write down 2 and 3? If you did, give yourself a tick for each of those. Now, we'll just look at why they are right and then quickly remind ourselves why the others are wrong. So, the elephant protected its calf. So, the elephant is the subject. What was the elephant doing? It was protecting its calf. So, elephant is subject, protected is verb, and calf is object. Brilliant if you got that right. I'm really pleased. Okay, number 3, she hurried to the shops. So the question is here, who hurried to the shops? Well, she did. What did she do? She hurried. Where did she hurry to? The shops. So she is the subject, hurried is a verb, and shops the object. Now, if we look at the others, I've already helped us out really. All of these others are made up of subjects, or we could say nouns, that don't really operate yet as a full sentence because they're not doing anything. They've got no verbs and they're not doing anything to anything else and no objects. So 1, 4 and 5 cannot be full sentences. Okay, brilliant. So what's going to come next? Ooh. Now,